My family stole $93,000 while I supported them. When I cut them off, my brother lost his repossessed car. And now they're begging me back, but I made them face the consequences they never saw coming. I'm 29 years old. I'm a creative director at an advertising agency in Chicago. I make pretty good money, truth be told. And for years, literally years, I've been financially supporting my family because supposedly it was the right thing to do. You know, help your own when you can. But what happened a few months ago made me realize that basically they were using me like a personal ATM. And when I say they stole from me, it's not an exaggeration. They really stole from me. I'm talking about almost $100,000. $100,000. And the worst part is they acted like it was my obligation to let them do it. I guess I should start from the beginning so you understand how we got to this point. My family has always been, let's say, financially complicated. My parents were never very good at managing money. I mean, my dad worked in maintenance and my mom was an administrative assistant, but they always lived paycheck to paycheck, never saved anything. When I was like 19 and in college, things got bad for them. They lost some jobs, had health problems, that kind of thing, and I started helping them with what I could, like $200 a month from my part-time job. Nothing major, but something that made me feel good, you know? Like I was being a good son. The problem, and looking back, I should have seen it coming from the start, is that there's also my younger brother, Trevor. Trevor is 25 now, and basically has never worked a full day in his life. When I was in college, killing myself, studying graphic design and working as a waiter at night, Trevor was at my parents' house, playing video games, and saying he was looking for his passion or some bullshit like that. My parents, especially my mom, always spoiled him in a way they never did with me. I was the responsible son, the one who got good grades, the one who got jobs, and so supposedly, I didn't need as much attention. Trevor was the baby, the sensitive one, the one who needed emotional support and space to grow at his own pace. Basically, he was the golden child who never did anything wrong in my mom's eyes. When I graduated and got my first real job in advertising like 7 years ago, I started making decent money, like $45,000 a year at first. Nothing spectacular, but for someone fresh out of college, it was good. And that's when the requests for help from my family became more frequent. That they needed help with the mortgage payment, that the car broke down, that Trevor needed money for an online course that was going to change his life. Spoiler alert, he never completed any course. At first they were small things, 500 here, 300 there, but over time it became routine. I was sending like $2,000 a month to my parents, sometimes more if there was some emergency, and honestly, I thought I was doing the right thing. My career grew pretty fast, truth be told. I'm good at what I do. They promoted me to creative director 2 years ago, when I was 27, and now I make like $120,000 a year plus bonuses. I live in a nice apartment in Lincoln Park. I drive a good car. I have a comfortable life. But it's not like I'm swimming in money either because I kept sending those $2,000 monthly to my parents, plus what Trevor asked for directly from time to time, plus extra help for emergencies. But well, I thought, I have a good job. I don't have kids. I can help my family, right? That's what people do. Help their parents when they get older. The problem is my parents weren't aging badly or anything. My mom is 56 and my dad is 58. They're relatively young still, but like 3 years ago, they both stopped working completely. My mom said she was too stressed and needed to retire early. My dad had a minor back problem and decided he couldn't work anymore. And Trevor, well, Trevor kept living at their house, playing video games all day, and occasionally saying he was looking for work, but never found anything that was worthy of him, you know? Everything was that the salary was too low, or the hours didn't work for him, or the work environment looked toxic. Basically, excuses to do nothing. I told them Trevor needed to get a job. Any job. That he was 25 years old and it was ridiculous that he kept living with them without contributing anything. But my mom always came out with that he was going through a hard time, that he had anxiety, that he needed time to find himself. And I thought, well, I also had anxiety when I was his age, and I still worked and studied. But I never said that out loud, because then my mom made me feel like the bad brother who didn't understand Trevor's struggles. So things went on like that for years. Me working like crazy, advancing in my career, living relatively well but not being able to save as much as I should because every month I sent thousands of dollars to my family. And them living their life. My parents going out to dinner often, Trevor buying new video game consoles and gaming computers. My mom redecorating the house every few months. I saw these things when I visited them, but never connected the dots. I mean, I thought maybe they were using coupons or had saved some money from when they worked. I don't know. I didn't think about it much because I trusted them. Like 6 months ago, in May, I think, or maybe late April, I was at my office on a Tuesday afternoon working on a campaign for an important client when I got a call from the bank. It was a guy named Benjamin from the fraud department, and he told me there was suspicious activity on my credit card. I thought, shit, they stole my card or something, and I asked him what kind of charge it was. Benjamin told me there was a pending charge of $50,000 to a travel agency for a Mediterranean cruise package. $50,000. I was literally in shock for a second, like I couldn't process what I had just heard, and I told Benjamin that I definitely hadn't made that charge, that I had never planned any cruise, that it was obviously fraud. Benjamin told me he was going to block the transaction immediately, and that I needed to fill out a fraud report. He sent me the details by email, and when I opened them, I saw that the reservation was in my parents' and Trevor's names. All three of them. A 3-week cruise through the Mediterranean with stops in Italy, Greece, Spain, the whole luxury thing, and they had charged it to my credit card. I couldn't breathe well. Literally felt like someone had kicked me in the stomach. I called my mom immediately, didn't even wait to leave work, and when she answered, I asked her directly if she knew anything about a $50,000 charge on my card. There was a long silence, like 10 seconds that felt like hours. And then she said in that sweet voice she uses when she knows she did something wrong, "Oh, honey, we were going to tell you, but we wanted it to be a surprise. We've been so stressed lately and we thought a family vacation. It would do us all good. A surprise? $50,000 on my credit card was going to be a surprise?" I told her how the hell had they used my card without my permission, and she immediately got defensive, saying they thought I would be happy to help them, that I always said family was important, that I made good money and could afford it. I asked her how they had gotten my card, and she told me they had it saved. From one time I left it with them for an emergency like a year ago when I was out of town for work. An emergency. A luxury cruise is not an emergency. The conversation got ugly quickly. My mom started crying and saying I was selfish, that they had sacrificed everything for me when I was a kid, that now that I had money I was turning my back on them. My dad got on the phone, and in that calm voice he always uses when he tries to be the peacemaker, he told me he understood. I was surprised, but it wasn't that big a deal. That they were going to pay for the cruise eventually. That they just put it on my card because their credit wasn't good enough to qualify for the package. Eventually. They were going to pay eventually. With what money, if neither of them worked, and they lived off what I sent them every month? I told them I was going to report it as fraud to the bank and cancel the charge, and my mom started screaming that I was destroying the family, that Trevor was so excited about the trip, that it was the first time in years they were going to do something all together. And I thought, all together? Did they include me in this trip I paid for without knowing? Turns out no, the cruise was for the three of them. I wasn't even included in the reservation. Basically, they wanted me to pay for the three of them to go on a luxury vacation while I stayed working in Chicago. I hung up the phone and called the bank immediately to confirm I wanted to proceed with the fraud report. Benjamin guided me through the process and told me the charge would be reversed, but it could take a few weeks while they investigated. I asked him if there were other suspicious charges on my account, and he said he was going to check. He called me back like an hour later and told me he had found other unauthorized charges dating back the last 6 months. $43,000 more. $43,000 in charges I had never made. Things like expensive furniture, electronics, dinners at luxury restaurants, designer clothes. They had even paid for a used car for Trevor for $20,000 that I didn't even know existed. I sat in my office with the door closed for I don't know how long, maybe an hour, just trying to process what I had just discovered, $93,000. My family had stolen $93,000 from me in total over 6 months, and they had done it with my own credit card that I had given them for emergencies. And the worst part is they showed not even a bit of remorse. They acted like I was the bad guy for not being happy to finance their lifestyle while they didn't lift a finger to work. That night, I went to my parents' house without warning. I arrived like at 8 at night, and when my mom opened the door, she looked nervous. She already knew why I was there. I went in and saw Trevor in the living room playing video games on a new 75-inch TV that definitely wasn't there the last time I visited. My dad was sitting in a new recliner too, one of those electric recliners that cost like $2,000. I told them we needed to talk, and Trevor didn't even pause his game. He kept playing like I wasn't there. I explained to them that I had talked to the bank and discovered all the unauthorized charges, that I was reporting everything as fraud and that they were going to have to return the money somehow. My mom started with the same narrative that I was their son, that I should be happy to help them, that they raised me and gave me everything when I was a kid. I reminded her that I had been sending them $2,000 a month for years, plus extra help when they asked, that was help. Stealing my credit card wasn't help. It was literally a crime. Trevor finally paused his game and told me I was being dramatic, that I was acting like it was so much money when I made good money. I asked him when was the last time he earned any money working, and he got all offended, saying he was looking for work, but the job market was tough. He's 25 years old, not 18, and he's never had a real job in his life. I told him exactly that, and my mom immediately came out to defend him, saying Trevor was sensitive and that I didn't understand how hard it was for him to find something he liked. The argument lasted like 2 hours and we got nowhere. They kept insisting I was overreacting, that family helps each other, that they didn't think it would be a problem because I had money. I told them that even if I had money, they had no right to use it without my permission, and that what they did was fraud, that technically I could report them to the police. My mom got hysterical, saying I would destroy my own family. My dad asked me to think carefully before doing anything drastic, and Trevor went back to his game, acting like nothing happened. I left there feeling a mix of rage and sadness I had never experienced before. During the drive back to my apartment, I kept thinking about all the years I had been working hard, sending them money every month, sacrificing my own savings and financial goals to help them. And this was how they thanked me, using me as their personal income source without any kind of limit or respect. But the next day, I started the formal process with the bank. I filled out all the fraud reports, provided evidence that I hadn't authorized the charges, and the bank started its investigation. I also made a decision I probably should have made years before. I sent a text message to the family group we had on WhatsApp and told them I wasn't going to keep sending them monthly money anymore, that situation was over, that they were capable adults who could work and needed to start supporting themselves. My mom responded with like 20 messages telling me I was being cruel, that they couldn't pay the mortgage without my help, that Trevor needed support, basically trying to make me feel guilty. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt liberated. I changed my phone number a week later and only gave the new one to a couple of cousins I trusted. I also decided to move to a new apartment, closer to downtown Chicago, farther from where my parents lived, because I needed physical distance too, not just emotional. The following months were, let's say, interesting. The bank completed its investigation and determined that indeed the charges were fraudulent, so they reversed everything, and now the debt of $93,000 was in the hands of my parents and Trevor. They started receiving calls from debt collectors, constantly, like 10 calls a day or more. My cousin Stephanie, who's kind of gossipy, but for once I appreciated that she was, kept me updated on what was happening with my family because she stayed in contact with them. She told me Trevor had gotten a job for the first time in his life, at a diner flipping burgers, because the debt collectors wouldn't stop calling and they needed to show some kind of income. He lasted 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and he quit because according to him the manager was too strict and the shifts were too early. My mom apparently had to sell some of the things they had bought with my card, like the new TV and some furniture, but not even close to covering what they owed. My parents started falling behind on the mortgage payments because without my $2,000 monthly dollars, they couldn't cover it. Like 3 months after I cut off the financial support, they showed up at my new apartment on a Sunday morning. I don't know how they got my address. Probably. Stephanie gave it to them even though I specifically asked her not to. They rang the doorbell like at 9 in the morning, and when I opened the door, they both looked haggard. My mom had clearly been crying, and my dad had that expression of defeat I had never seen on him. They begged me to help them, that they were going to lose the house, that they had nowhere to go. I asked them about Trevor, and they told me he was still at the house, but that he had finally gotten another job at a warehouse, something part-time. I asked them, why couldn't they also get jobs? And my dad admitted he had been looking, but it was hard at his age to get something that paid well. I reminded him he was only 58 years old, not 80, that many people his age still worked. My mom said she couldn't work for health reasons, although when I asked her what medical conditions specifically she had, she couldn't give me a clear answer. I told them I wasn't going to help them, that they had made the decision to steal almost $100,000 from me and now they had to deal with the consequences. My mom told me I was a horrible son, that she never thought I would be so cruel, that how could I leave them homeless? I responded that they left me without almost $100,000 and didn't seem to have any problem with that. They left crying and yelling things at me, and the neighbors definitely heard all the drama, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. Eventually, my parents lost the house. The bank foreclosed on the mortgage like 6 months after I stopped helping them, and they had to move to a small apartment in a not-so-nice neighborhood. My dad got a part-time job at an auto parts store, and my mom finally accepted a part-time job too at a supermarket. Trevor stayed with them, but now working at the warehouse, although according to Stephanie, he constantly complained about how unfair it was that he had to work. The debt of $93,000 didn't magically disappear. The debt. Collectors took them to court and the judge determined that Trevor was primarily responsible because most of the charges had been for things he used directly, like the car and the electronics. They ordered him to pay the $93,000 plus court costs, like $10,000 more. Trevor obviously didn't have that money, so they started garnishing his wages. Basically, they took like 25% of every check he received from the warehouse job. Stephanie told me Trevor was furious, that he didn't understand why he had to pay when I was the one who had money. The irony was incredible, honestly. He had never worked in his life, had lived off my parents and my money indirectly for years, had spent my stolen money on things for himself, and now he was angry because he had to work and use his own money to pay his debts. Welcome to adulting, Trevor. Like 8 months after all this, Trevor arrived at the warehouse where he worked and found his car, that used car, for $20,000. They bought with my card, being towed from the parking lot. It had been repossessed because he obviously hadn't been making payments on the loan they took out to cover it after the bank reversed my charge. Stephanie sent me a video that someone recorded of Trevor literally running after the tow truck, screaming, and I'm not going to lie, I felt a deep satisfaction watching it. Is it bad that I felt good about it? Probably, but after years of feeling used and stolen from, seeing real consequences falling on them felt like justice. My parents tried to contact me several more times during the past year. They sent me messages through cousins, tried to show up at my work once, but security didn't let them go up. It was always the same story. They needed help. I was their son. Family should support each other. But never, not once, did they offer me a real apology. They never admitted what they did was wrong. It was always that I was overreacting, that they had a right to that money because I made good money, that family shares. You know what's the saddest thing about all this? It's not the loss of money. Although $93,000 is a lot of money, it's realizing that for years my family saw me only as a source of income, not as a person with my own goals and needs. Trevor never had to grow up or be responsible because I was there to finance his lifestyle. My parents never had to make real sacrifices or adjust their standard of living because I was sending them thousands of dollars every month. I enabled them for years without realizing it, and when I finally set boundaries, they acted like I was the villain. Now, I live my life without that constant pressure of supporting 3 capable adults, in addition to myself. For the first time in years, I'm saving real money. I invested in a robust 401k. I'm planning to buy my own place eventually. I go out with my friends without feeling guilty about spending money on myself. I work hard, but the money I earn is mine, not theirs. Stephanie tells me Trevor is still working at the warehouse, hating it every day but without real options because the wage garnishment is going to last years. My parents are still in their small apartment working their part-time jobs, adjusting to a much more modest life than the one they had when I was supporting them. And I'm still here, living my life, without sending them a single cent. Do I feel bad sometimes? Sure, they're my family after all. And there are moments when I think about how things were when I was a kid, before everything became about money. But then I remember those $93,000. How they lied to me. How they used my trust and my desire to be a good son to steal from me. And the guilt disappears quickly. I did the right thing. I set boundaries. I forced them to face the consequences of their actions, and if that makes me the horrible son my mom says I am, I guess I can live with that.